で、今日なんですが、タイトルとしては、The Great Reset HR トレンドとこれからの職場づくりということで、私の恩師でもありますクリスティーナをお招きして、お話しいただく形になります。で、進め方、簡単にご説明させていただきますが、最初に皆さんとちょっとイントロとして、様々なデータと共有させていただきながら、だいたい1時間半ほどですね、クリスティーナの時間ということで、皆様とはインタラクティブに、レクチャーもしていただきながら、また最後に Q&A セッションを設けて、インタラクティブに皆さんの日々の課題とか、今悩んでいらっしゃることとか、または純粋に聞いてみたいこととかを直接聞いていただく場を設けております。ですね、このような形で。では、まず簡単に弊社のご紹介だけ簡単にさせていただきます。株式会社Everyという会社はですね、2020年6月に、私が留学して帰国して、立ち上げた会社になります。現在では、Every HR Academy というオンライン講座を展開しているものでして、この Every HR Academy では HRBP 養成講座みたいなものが今開講されているんですが、ここではクリスティナ・バンクスにもアドバイザーになっていただいて、彼女の教え方とか、またはコンテンツというものを少し開示させていただいているというような感じになります。実際に多くの方々にご参加いただいている講座ですので、もしご興味ありましたら、弊社のホームページ、ご覧いただければと思います。で、改めてですね、今日はクリスティーナに来ていただいて、いろいろなお話をしていただくわけですが、アメリカと当然、日本では状況が違いますので、アメリカではそもそもどういうことが話題になっているかということをまずシェアさせていただいて、皆さんに少し、リアルにこの場所をですね、感じていただければと思います。で、一つのキーワード、Great Resignation ですね。で、要は大量離職ということなんですけれども、人がどんどん辞めていくということが、コロナ禍では起きましたと。で、今では IT 系の企業さんがどんどん解雇というですね、レイオフをしているわけですけれども、その前にもどんどん人が辞めたりとか、労働市場というのはすごく揺れ動いております。で、こういった環境の中で一つのキーワードに出てきたのが、Quiet Quitting というもので、皆さん、働き方がどんどん変わっていくにつれて、時間通りにきちんと働くということがどんどん増えてきたということで、単純に辞めるというわけではなくて、エンゲージしているのかエンゲージしていないのか、いや、どちらでもない、みたいな、働き方の方、昔で言うとですね、いう、現象が増えてきたということが一つのキーワードになっています。で、こういったところの背景にどういったものがあるのかということで、非常に有益なデータとして発見したのが、マイクロソフトさんが、提供しているデータですね。で、31カ国、3万1000人を対象とした調査結果の概要ということで、私たちの働く価値観が、どんどん変わってきていますよ、というようなお話がありました。で、この、クワイエットクイッティングのようなですね、価値観の変化というもの自体は、クリスティナの方でもペーパーを出していますので、もしご興味があれば、ご覧いただければと思います。じゃあ、翻って働き方ということに置き換えてみると、先ほどのデータ、マイクロソフトさんのデータでは、改めてですね、労働の仕方、方法というものは、どんどん変わりつつあるということが、データ上では明らかになっています。皆さんにも身近な例で言えば、ツイッターさんの話とか、イーロン・マスクが戻ってきたら、急にみんな会社に戻りなさいというような話があったりとか、あとはGoogle の中でも週3出社義務っていうようなお話があったりとか。で、日本の例で言えば、メルカリさんが、どこでもいいですよと、Your Choice という制度で、どこでも、働けるような制度を導入したりとか、逆に本田さんは、原則出社をするというような話もあったりします。ので、様々、企業のあり方、企業のポリシーというものが、この働く、一つオフィスをとっても、様々な違いが出てきている世界かなと。です。で、さらに内面の、データを見ていくとですね、やはりマネージャー陣、どうやって皆さんのパフォーマンスを上げていくか、または、健康管理していくかっていう観点においては、どんな働き方をすべきなのか、すごく迷っているというデータも一方で出ています。この、マイクロソフトのデータ自体は、いわゆるグローバルな、調査結果になりますけれども、改めて日本でも、別のデータがあったりしますので、どんな状況かというところで言うと、日本生産性本部さんのデータで言うと、いわゆる自宅での勤務というものは非常にポジティブなリアクションが見られているという結果になっております。 大体ですけれども、6割強が効率性が上がったとか、生産性が上がったみたいな話をしていて、80% ぐらいが、大体自宅での勤務に満足している。どちらかといえば満足しているというようなポジティブなリアクションがあるという状況です。皆さんの中でも、会社で、ほぼ、リモートワークですよ、という方もいらっしゃると思いますし、逆に、出社をして、勤務されている方もいらっしゃると思いますが、こういったデータもあるということです。で、改めてですけれども、このオフィス、または働く場所というところで考えると、今、ちょうどですね、新しい働き方、新しい働くオフィスというものを考えるタイミングなのかなと思います。コロナも少し落ち着きながら、いわゆる5類に認定されるということで、マスクが必要なくなるんじゃないかということも日本ではありますし、そういった観点でもどうやって働いてもらうのかということは非常に難しいんじゃないかと、また新しいチャレンジだなというところです。さらに、面白いデータもここにありますので、マイクロソフトワークトレンドインデックスは、ぜひ、皆さん調べていただくと、面白いデータが見つかるんじゃないかなと思います。で、今日皆さんに、考えていただきたいのは、やはり、このような状況下の中でどんな働き方をしているか、様々なご家庭の方、様々な状況の方がご参加いただいていると思います。で、皆さん自身も、リモートワークまたは出社をして、どんな働き方が自分にとっていいのか、または組織にとっていいのかということを考えながら働いていらっしゃるんじゃないかなと思います。ですので、よくありがちな、テレワーク出社させるべきなのか、というようなことを考えるのではなく、改めて、本質的な問いとして、どうしたら、仕事の生産性だったり、従業員の健康や幸福感というものを上げられるのか、そんなことを考えるきっかけにしていただけたらすごく嬉しいなと思いますので、チャットに書き込んでいただいたこともですね、含めて、今日クリスティーナにお話ししていただこうと思います。So finally, Christina, thank you for coming today. That webinar, I'm going to introduce you.
Okay, but I will put on my video.
Yeah, and then it's in Japanese, so. クリスティナ先生はですね、バークレーで40年ぐらい、もう先生をされている方でして、様々なコンサルティングファームとか、UC バークレーの逆に調査機関とかのディレクターも務めていらっしゃる先生です。で、彼女は私が2018年から2019年、アメリカに行った時にですね、実際に先生として、ヒューマンリソースマネジメントを教わった、本当に恩師という方で、日本の環境にもすごく理解のある方ですが、基本はアメリカの労働環境に専門性を置いていらっしゃる方で、皆さんにとってはすごく視点を広げるいい時間になるんじゃないかと思って、今日お話をさせていただきます。で、これが当時のアイスクリームを食べた写真ですね。We got take pictures at the ice cream. It's I don't know the name of restaurant.
Ben and Jerry's.
Ben and Jerry's.
Oh, yeah. Stephanie, you're here, right?
You're in the picture too.
Yeah. ですね。なので、改めてですね、様々なお話、様々なQ&A、フリーに聞いていただこうと思いますので、皆さん自身もオープンマインドで、または、全く緊張する必要はありませんので、自由に書き込みをしていただけたらいいなと思います。So,
ありがとう。おはようございます。And thank you for inviting me to talk with you today. And I'm very excited about sharing some of the thoughts that we have been developing here at the Interdisciplinary Center for Healthy Workplaces, and to try to give guidance for not only people in the United States, but also in other countries, because the problems are common. And so we need to figure out what are the best paths to go forward in order to improve the health, well-being, and productivity of all workers, and to build on the success of every company and organization. So with that, I will start. I will be talking about work trends and the future of employee health and well-being. And please let me know your questions in the chat. So next, I will talk about 6 work trends that I think are particularly important for us to discuss today. The first trend is very important to understand that we don't have the answers. Employers are struggling with how to design, operate, and manage better buildings to house their employees. The importance of that work trend is that we're still trying to figure it out, and there is no solution that fits all companies or even complete solutions to help any company. And you will hopefully understand by the end of this presentation that there are pathways to a successful solution, so we will get to those in a minute. One of the difficulties that is causing this struggle is that business leaders are out of touch with their employees' needs. They do not understand what employees need and also how they're feeling about the current situation in their organizations. The third trend that we have to talk about is about the virus, the COVID-19 virus, and that it will probably never go away, or at least in the near future. And this continues to challenge businesses. So we have to think about what the best approach will be to keep employees safe and engaged and want to return to the office. One thing to understand about the arrival of the pandemic, COVID-19, is that it gave us an opportunity to understand what it's like to work away from our home office or to work through how to manage our time when we have other responsibilities, such as family and other personal responsibilities. It's making us rethink how we work and live. Workforce trend or work trend is that employee mental health and well-being is of primary concern and focus today. This was pointed out and has become very important for the Society for Human Resource Management, which is the largest human resource association in the United States. The significance of this work trend, the importance of mental health and well-being, is that it's the first time it has really reached a great deal of attention in organizations, and now organizations are trying to figure out how to support that mental health and well-being. So it shouldn't be surprising, knowing that COVID-19 is causing great disruption in how people think about how they work and live, and the fact that mental health issues are of primary importance today, that we have 2 other trends going on, the Great Resignation and quiet quitting. So because we are seeing people quitting at rates that we haven't seen in a long time, and that we have people deciding to do what they need to do in their job and no more, this reflects a new contract between employees and their employers. Maza-san indicated at the beginning, this new contract is what we need to understand. We are now facing the 6th work trend here, which is a big gap between job openings and the U.S. labor market, as Maza-san showed us in the beginning of this presentation. And it drives a rethinking of what we need to do to close the gap. So now we can get into the specifics of the talk. Now that you have the background on what the work trends are and the consequence of a sick building on an individual person. This is an accurate picture. You may not realize it, but this is a picture of a real problem. It's called a sick building syndrome, which makes people sick, makes people ill because of the environmental conditions inside the building and the working conditions under which people perform. It's not just the virus that makes us sick. There are many things inside the building and conditions under which people work, which makes them sick, causes disease, and can even lead to death. But I won't dwell on death this morning. But I will give you some hope here that there are things that we can do to make the building healthier and therefore better for people working in that building. Most important experts in the area of indoor environmental quality is Joseph Allen of Harvard University. 9 key aspects of indoor environmental quality, which are critical for health and well-being. And these are the 9. So I could talk about each one, but I am going to point out particular ones that you may not know much about. And I will start with ventilation. The essence of ventilation is that you can put ultraviolet light in the ventilation system to kill pathogens, and it will kill the coronavirus. Air quality is also very important, and what we have developed in buildings is a maximum air exchange between fresh air and indoor air of about 50%. On a cycling basis. I would also like to talk about safety and security by saying that the safety and security is important when there are conditions of heightened aggression, harassment, entry by people who don't belong in a building, but also to prevent violence. There is an increase in the amount of workplace violence today. And so having a safe and secure workplace is very important. So let me talk about 2 more. Noise is another critical one because it is a major disruptor of cognitive functioning in the workplace. And most of the disruption has to do with speech, people talking and people walking around and socializing in the same place that people need to work. There are new developments in the area of soundscapes or the development of nature sounds, which are at a frequency to disrupt speech, so that although you can still hear people talking, you can't understand what they're saying. And the final one is lighting and views, and this has to do with your circadian rhythm that is responsible for your ability to sleep at night. And views are very important for the purpose of refreshing your brain. If you work in a very concentrated way for 30 minutes or 1 hour, it is important to stand up and go to a window and look at a far view, because that will use a different part of your brain than the one that you used for your concentration. So this is very important for brain refreshment for your cognitive performance. Now I will talk about specific physical environment factors that are important for health and well-being. All of these factors have been shown to scientifically to improve not only physical and mental health and a sense of well-being, but it also improves productivity. The first one is to make sure that the building materials are non-toxic and they are natural materials like stone and clay and natural materials. Second set of factors are called biophilia. Biophilia is the introduction of natural or nature into the workplace. And examples of those are leafy plants, natural materials like stone and leather and art and moving nature scenes, internal gardens, wood. Actually, the grain in wood is very important to be able to see, and water features like fountains inside the workplace. The colors of the walls and materials in the environment are very important because they have different effects on you psychologically and physically. And so here you will see that green is a wonderful color for productivity, concentration, and for creativity. And it's important that we have colors colors that are in the blue spectrum of light will keep you awake and activate you, and that colors in the more yellow-orange range are good for socializing and calming down and feeling more comfortable. Ergonomic furniture and equipment is also very important for comfort in being able to work in a relaxed state, but also to prevent pain and injury. So it's important that you get ergonomically fit furniture and equipment so you don't hurt yourself. And then finally, to have different space types so you can match the activity you're trying to do with the kind of space that's designed for that. For example, high concentration work in a private, quiet space, and then a socializing environment where you can connect and talk loudly and share beverages and so on. But the point is to have an option to go to the place that is best for the activity that you want to engage in. All of these factors we just talked about in the physical environment can be adopted in one's home as your working space. Now I will turn to psychosocial factors. So we talked about the physical factors. Now we'll talk about the psychosocial factors which have also been shown to positively affect health, well-being, and productivity. So many of these you already know, but it's even more important now because of how people are working remotely from the workplace and missing many of these. So I will read through all of these and then make a comment about them. We know that job involvement and participation in decision-making is important for employee commitment and engagement. We are now learning that alternative work arrangements are important to create the flexibility that employees are requiring in order to manage both their work and personal lives. Employee reward and recognition programs are important to have in place for people to feel engaged and also to feel like they belong to the organization and to feel rewarded for their hard work. We are learning that predictable work schedules are very important to people so they can plan their lives, both their work lives and their personal lives around that. A lack of predictability causes fear, anxiety, and disruption in one's personal arrangement of their lives. And personal growth and advancement opportunities are critical for people to want to stay with an organization because that is the pathway to career development and career advancement.
Good.
And finally, health and safety assurances. They just have to be present. So now I want to turn to what our path forward is. On the previous slides, I have addressed what are the conditions that are necessary for promoting the health, well-being, and productivity of employees. And you have indoor environmental quality, you have the physical environment factors, and now we just went through the psychosocial ones. How do we decide what to put in there in the organization, in the workplace, and also what should we build into our home office so we can work effectively remotely? You may already see the connection between the list in this slide with what are the factors that we just covered, because those factors are the features that you want to put into your environment because of its connection to health, well-being, and productivity. What you see here are the principles underlying why those are important factors. These are what I call design qualities that you want to create in the working conditions. And these are what I believe are fixes or solutions to great resignations and quiet quitting propensity. Privacy is, the ability to have private conversations, perform work confidentially, and to be in a place without disruption. Flexibility is really about choice, being able to capitalize on spaces and places and time so that you can work at your best. And predictability is important to reduce the uncertainty and anxiety and stress around not being able to plan. And connection is important for people to feel that they belong to the organization. They have social connections, they have a professional network, that they belong. Equity is important for a sense of fairness, and mental well-being is tied very closely to a sense of fairness and equity in one's treatment in the workplace. Qualities that are important for people feeling at ease, feeling safe, and free from the anxiety and stress of harms. So all of these qualities that are on the left side are connected to basic human needs that we have that underlie our health, well-being, and our intrinsic motivation in our work life. So I show this so that you see that there is a connection between what all of us really need, their basic human needs, and what kinds of environments satisfy those basic needs. And once there is satisfaction of those basic needs, we can then be in an environment and work in a way that maximizes our intrinsic work motivation, preserves our mental and physical health, gives us a sense of ease and well-being, and allows us to work or to do our best work. These are the connections. Basic needs, qualities of the work environment that satisfy those needs, and then all of those factors that we talked about are connected to these qualities, and they have the impact of health, well-being, and productivity. This slide is just to inform you of what is happening in the United States, where we're trying to look at health and well-being and productivity all together. The indoor environmental quality, the physical factors, and the social factors all working together in an environment where there is total worker health. And finally, I want to give you some tips for addressing the gap between what leaders understand and what employees need. So let's see what are some of the things that can happen that will help close that gap. The first is to focus on internal talent mobility, and this should help with the Great Resignation. We can find talent from within and promote from within to fill those gaps. Because the Great Resignation and quiet quitting has presented so many staffing issues, we need to address the skills and abilities of the people we already have and create learning opportunities so that the current workers, the current employees, know that they have a future. For example, providing stretch assignments and upskilling existing employees. For frontline workers, we want to give them more choice and predictability in their work schedules by having schedules set at least 2 weeks in advance. A very difficult time managing their employee needs and their leaders' demands. So having more support and training for managers is needed. We also can increase the labor supply by looking at non-traditional job candidates to fill talent positions. So expanding our thinking about who might qualify for positions and then add training where the skills are lacking. We want to address psychological trauma from the COVID pandemic through trauma counseling, and some companies are considering giving mental health days as a benefit. So in conclusion, what I have presented are ideas and knowledge about how to support the health and well-being of employees, but also importantly, how to create conditions to promote and sustain their work motivation so that they want to work and do their best work and want to stay with their organization. Okay, so the question about inclusion policies is, what would be some examples of inclusion policies?
later.
Okay, for internal mobilities, silo mindset can prevent mobilities between functions and teams within the organization. What can be possible ways to foster internal talent mobilities? Okay, inclusion and mobility go together. The reason why we have inclusion policies is because there is a lack of opportunity for groups of people within the organization. So inclusion policies are an effort to reverse that trend, to increase opportunity and representation of all people in the organization. Okay, I will hope to give you some ideas here. Okay, to address both the mobility and the inclusion issue, it's very important that there is cross-silo or cross-unit interaction and collaboration. So specific intention to create groups of workers, employees within the organization to work on problems, to work on social issues, to work on projects together so that they have an understanding of what other people do in the organization, and they also see what other people do to derive interest in what they do, and also to be included in solutions or in outcomes for projects so that they are represented. That's one way to do it. Let me give you another idea, which is to do an audit of all of your human resource practices or management practices to determine who is not represented in any of those decisions, in those opportunities, in those projects, so that you have an assessment of what the deficit is. And then once you know the deficits, you can take steps to identify opportunities for people to be represented in each of those areas that are not represented. I agree with the participant from who says that in the inclusion policy needs involvement of corporate executives. Absolutely, because it will not change unless there is support from leadership, and a culture evolves to incorporate all the diversity of the organization. So I'll say one more thing about many of the practical matters of health, well-being, and productivity, including the principle of inclusion, and that is good management practices, where people are judged on the basis of their talent and are elevated, promoted on the basis of their accomplishment and their demonstrated abilities and work motivation. Good management practices will take care of inclusion. But because we have blinders and biases, we eliminate opportunities for many people who are different from ourselves, or who are not part of the popular individuals. What we must understand about inclusion and diversity is that it is what creates better outcomes, better ideas, better products, better work, because we get diversity of opinion, we get diversity of information, and that is the lifeblood of creativity and innovation. When you have people who think alike and do everything alike, you don't get the same opportunity for greater business success. So it is in the leadership's best interest to invest in inclusion.
We have another question. It's about theories. George Elton Mayo.
Okay, that's easy. Yes, this is another version of the humanistic revolution represented by those individuals, but it's with greater urgency and greater business impact right now. I think they are ready to listen. They being the leaders. I think leaders are ready to listen.
Okay. It's gonna be last questions. From HM-san, do you have any advice or examples of how to raise awareness of noise?
Yes. The question is whether the speech around people is disrupting their work. So you can ask directly in a survey about a number of working conditions, if you want to do that. But is the fact that people are talking around you disrupting your work? And to what extent is that interrupting your productivity? You can ask directly. People will be able to say if it's a disruption. And if it is, then you know you need to either change where people talk versus work, separating the two, or you try to mask the speech. And you can do that through soundscapes, natural sounds, nature sounds, or white noise or pink noise. If you want to know about noise and other indoor environmental qualities, there are instruments available where you can administer that to employees and they can report what they are. I would recommend looking at the website for Joseph Allen, and you can either develop your own survey or obtain a survey to track at least those factors, which includes noise.
皆さんありがとうございました。ということで、時間にもなりましたが、何か急ぎで絶対聞きたいんだっていうようなご質問がなければ、皆さんのご都合もあると思いますので、ここら辺で、セミナーは終了という形にしたいなと思います。彼女の講演の内容自体は、そもそも働く場所を、概念的にきちんと捉えましょうということで、なんで、それをやるのかというところに従業員のニーズがきちんとあるからというところがあったかと思います。ですので、少しでも、皆さんにですね、こういった、セオリーとかリサーチとかの結果が、日本の職場にも反映されるかなというふうに思いますし、今日のですね、The Great Reset のセミナーはここで終了という形にさせていただきますので、皆さん本当にご参加いただきましてありがとうございました。